All right, welcome back. I split this last part of this second lecture off to cover the ancient readings, these couple of readings that we're going to kind of get into that kind of go along quickly after they establish these writings. Then you start getting these religious texts about origin stories and stuff like that, and mythology, and that's what we're going to kind of look at here. And we're not always going to kind of take the time to go through the readings in the lectures themselves, but when you haven't read stuff like this, in particular, it's kind of nice to kind of have it gone through with you, because they are written in a different kind of way of writing, and they're translated to English, but obviously it's a little different to read. So the first one we're going to look at is called the Enuma Elish, and basically, the idea is that the gods do what they always do, which is they get upset about something and then they look for a champion. In this case, the gods get upset because there is a dragon named Tiamat, and Tiamat is raging and she's threatening to kill them, and they're all sitting around going, "Oh no, we're the gods, but who's going to save us? This dragon Tiamat is going to kill us all." And so one god named Marduk steps up and says, "I'll do it. But I'll only do it if you make me the head of the pantheon and you admit that I'm the most powerful god that there is. And if I pull this off, then you have to say that I'm the best." And so he goes into battle. Him and Tiamat wage war. Marduk ends up cutting Tiamat in half. Long story short, he throws wind into her mouth, and it's like this crazy anime style fight sequence, and then it's super over the top. It's crazy stuff. But anyways, he cuts Tiamat in half, and half of Tiamat becomes the earth and half becomes the sky. And then he takes her conspirator, her fellow rebel, whose name is Kingu, and Kingu, he basically disembowels Kingu and then takes the blood and guts of this traitor, and this is where he makes man, out of the blood and guts of a traitor. Now compare that with Genesis, and I think you get some pretty radical differences, right? And obviously you'll have to read the whole story and then kind of look at it that way. But when you compare Genesis, man is made in God's image, right? Man is not the blood and guts of some traitor to the gods, and so what kind of value is placed on human life in Mesopotamia based on this origin story, right? In the Bible, yeah, we're sinners for sure, but this story is not a beautiful story like it is in Genesis, right? So we get some fundamental differences. And so that's kind of the broad picture of the Enuma Elish here. It can be kind of a tricky thing to read, and especially, like I said, if it's the first kind of thing that you read from this kind of style. The second story is the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is by far on Oprah's ancient bestseller list, if she had one. They make copy after copy after copy of this story. And so we actually have, even today, about 12 or so that have actually survived in various fragmentations. It's very popular for thousands of years, and it's circulated pretty much about as much as, the Bible is circulated today. Every Mesopotamian knew about Gilgamesh in this story. And now, most of them may not have been able to read it for themselves, but they had definitely heard the story told. And basically, the story goes like this. Gilgamesh is 2/3 man, 1/3 god. And he is the king of a place called Uruk, okay, U-R-U-K. And as king of Uruk, he's also kind of a demigod, right? And so he has no peers at all. Everybody is lower than him. So he's better at everything than everybody he knows. So one day he's running around and he runs into this wild, crazy guy named Enkidu. And Enkidu is big and strong and powerful, and Gilgamesh seems to have kind of met his match when they kind of get into a fight. And as they fight, they kind of come to respect each other. And at the end of the fight, they're like, "Dude, you're awesome." And he's like, "Yeah, bro, you're awesome too. You want to be best friends?" And they become best friends, and they go on these hunting adventures, and that's basically the whole thing that their relationship is made up of, is that they're BFFs and they run around hunting. Well, one day they make a mistake. They kill something called the Bull of Heaven, the Umbaba, which is kind of a fun word to say. But the problem is the goddess Ishtar, who's the goddess of love and war, happens to really be a fan of the Umbaba. So she kills Enkidu. Well, I mean, she doesn't just straight up kill him. He gets sick and dies thanks to Ishtar. And now Gilgamesh basically despairs. Oh my gosh, my best friend. I thought I didn't have any friends, and now he's been taken from me. What do I do? So, because it's an ancient text, you would think, oh, well, he's going to go on a murderous rampage against the gods and try and kill Ishtar. But this is not modern god of war here, okay? Instead, he decides that he's going to try and bring Enkidu back and seek out eternal life. So in order to do that, he goes to see a man named Utnapishtim, which is a cool name, Utnapishtim. And this guy who survived the flood and all of this, he's one of the guys that they say is like all-knowing. And he appears and says, I can tell you how to get eternal life. So now the story kind of seems to switch gears, okay? He was going to try and resurrect his friend, but now it seems like Gilgamesh wants to get eternal life for himself. So there's different versions, of course, because over the course of thousands of years, it's going to change in the different regions, but essentially Gilgamesh is told by Utnapishtim that the key to eternal life is to make a broth and drink it with this very particular plant that lives at the bottom of the sea. And since Gilgamesh is part god, he can get to the sea just fine, and so he does. There's the plant. He's about to grab it. And then one version of the story has a snake come in and snatch it away like a sea serpent, and then the story just ends. That's the end. Kind of anticlimactic. Another version says that he grabs the plant, goes to an island, starts to cook it, but he falls asleep, and a serpent comes up, grabs the whole thing, and he never gets eternal life. And that's kind of the moral of the story, that, you may seek it out, but you'll never find it, and it's about grief and loss and despair and all these real human emotions. And in their own way, Mesopotamians are trying to wrestle with these things and understand them through these stories. So that's kind of the real point, and that's how myths work. They're historical, but, they're timeless truths about human beings and how we wrestle with things. So they contain themes that we are definitely interested in as a whole. And that's kind of the end of the two stories there. So I thought it'd be easier to make it into a single lecture there by itself. All right?